I was the first one to leave.
They all
followed you.
You're the mayor pro,
Okay, well, poor.
you're the mayor pro tem.
1, 2, 3, 4,
Okay.
We don't care,
We're good to
Very
go.
good.
So drainage projects, we said that whatever the issues that might come up, we believe we can take care of from the funded,
Right to the left.
that we have. Street projects, page 107. We do have 2 priority A projects. The first is our 40-year CDBG project. That would be the individual, I think the 50 individual sidewalk ramps that you saw earlier, pretty much depicted on these maps up here. It's along West Pipeline Road, Connect Drive, and Signet primarily, and this would be fully funded from our CDBG grant funds. The second portion of that would be the City Hall complex that you also saw earlier. The combined cost of those 2 projects is about $495,600. The CDBG funds will cover about $385,000 of that, and city funding of $110,000 is required, and we're recommending car rental funds from that, and the staff is building that into that budget. On the unfunded, the other unfunded aid is the 2015 street overlays. In the past, we have called this county overlay. We took the word county out until we made that evaluation. But this is basically the $300,000 that we request annually for those county overlays. We have also typically named the streets, but because we are waiting on that IMS management, our pavement management assessment, we have not put any street names in. We feel like we need to get the full report back on what they recommend we do first, and then we expect to be able to bring you a full briefing on that on August the 2nd, and then we would be able to put some street names with that. We are fairly confident based on the preliminary results that the $300,000 we have here, plus the $300,000 that you saw in the capital and supplemental request and our baseline funding will be adequate, so we don't think we're going to necessarily have to increase that amount.
Could I go back to the ADA stuff for a minute and the sidewalk? At the town hall meeting the other night, Ms. Vicki Dobbs
Yeah,
talked about the quick trip to Timber Ridge.
we need to do that.
We are looking at that, but that is, with most things in government, it ain't as simple as it looks. That is unplatted property. It's never been developed. We don't even have right of way there.
Oh.
I'm not telling you that we're not doing it, I'm just telling you, we don't have right of way. If you go up there and look, there is a huge telephone facility right in the middle of where a sidewalk went. There's a telephone pole. So we're looking at that. We've been looking at it for a long time, and I know people get tired of hearing this, that we're looking at it, but number one, we have no right of way. If everything was clear right now, we have no right of way. We would have to go try to buy the right of way, and we will, or get him to donate it, or what. We'll get him to we'll try to convince him that he ought to build a sidewalk, because when his property develops, he got to develop it anyway. We don't own property. We simply, and I don't, the last time I heard, we didn't want to condemn properties. So, that is the first complication. If you drive by there and see, you'll see the big, I think it's telephone facility. So it is not as simple. And I don't want anybody to look at that and say, we're going to build 110 sidewalks and ramps. How the heck are you doing it there? We're looking at it, but it is complicated, and it is unbelievably complicated. But it starts with, we don't know the problem. So just let you know.
Okay, looking out at our 5 years, we obviously, as we said, are going to recommend we continue our CDBG ADA improvements. And our street overlay, obviously that's something we will try to commit to annually. East Harwood Road extension, that is obviously the project that would extend Harwood Road to and through the airport. Our commitment on that is limited to $100,000 with the airport and TxDOT being responsible for everything above that. If and when that occurs, the traffic signal at Harwood, Bear Creek is on there, and then East Alexander Lane reconstruction, and that's one of the final streets that doesn't have curb and gutter. So whether or not that ever needs to be done, it's listed on there because it doesn't have curb and gutter. So, but it's out in the, I think it's been good for 5 years, and maybe King is fine there. So
I don't know what was up, go back to ramps for a minute. On Highway 10, we see work going on primarily the south side of Highway 10. That is TxDOT doing that, and you are going to have some ramps to nowhere. TxDOT is utilizing some available funds that is earmarked, I guess that's a bad word, but it's designated for ADA ramps. So they are putting in
Is there one
ramps.
on the bridge?
No, they can't, they won't fix the bridge, they're doing ramps to nowhere.
But just so you know, you will literally see ADA ramps that go nowhere, and everybody thinks we're doing it. And we're talking to them because the expectation we're gonna get from our citizens is, now it's really easy, you've got ramps at the end of the block,
Go on
there's
the
a
sidewalk.
sidewalk there. Well, as we've said umpteen times, it is TxDOT's responsibility. I'm not sure why they're building the ramps, but I mean, it's their business, it's their right of way, they can build them, but we'll hear from it. Did y'all hear people, because I called Chris the other day and said, why in the world are we building ramps at the corner of Texas Star Parkway and Highway 10?
I know, Gary said the same
Yeah,
thing.
and it's, when he checked into it, because their barricades all over, we're not doing it, that's not. So,
All of these projects that are listed here, you'd see would be from current funds, there's no debt. We propose to work all this in our multi-year budget from either car rental funds or grant funds. There would not be any debt for any of these. Wastewater projects, the unfunded are on page 153. We have 2 priority A's. Both of these would be paid from our annual transfer, Mr. Porterfield mentioned. That's $1 million that we're dedicating. And the first is at Crane Drive, that will run between Crane and Donnelly, north of Harwood Road to Glen. And the cost of this particular one is about $185,000. The second one is a line along Town Creek Drive from Salem Drive to Carter, and includes Carter Drive south of Town Creek, Westport Circle, Newport Circle, Mashbury Circle, and this project's about $437,000. So that's about $600,000 here on the wastewater side that we're looking at.
Go back to that slide. A quick comment, and we may get to it later, but on the highway project. We've had some people ask us why we haven't met with neighborhoods and whatnot on the highway project. And that slide right there is a really good example on the 183 project. That is conditionally awarded. And the last meeting that Al and them went to is they're tweaking their design, where we showed you sometime back that there was a right-of-way line that got into those houses. They're tweaking that line south, and we don't even know where it is. But the question of why have we not been out there ahead of that is just for that reason. It's not our place to go scare people and tell them that they're gonna lose their home, because we're not the one buying it or designing it or anything else. And it's been a moving target. So when you hear people ask that, we've not tried to keep them in the dark, but I don't want somebody to spend a year thinking they're gonna lose their home and put them in the bind. So that's the reason why. So,
We assigned an engineer yet to that part of the segment of the project, TxDOT?
yeah, I mean, that whole group is
No, the
assembled.
single engineer, the project engineer over it, have they assigned that yet? Is it
No.
related to moving from this way to that way?
When you say TxDOT is assigned an engineer to look out for
The
TxDOT.
project manager, yes.
Yes, I believe it's HTND.
Okay.
That group is assembled in this, but it's a moving target,
Yeah.
and there's very little information on this.
If you look at the priority Ds, obviously you can see annual operating transfers, so that would be our plan, obviously each year to continue replacing our infrastructure. And then the only thing on there, let's see, that I might call your attention to, other than our ongoing annual line replacements, would be the Highway 183 Phase 2 wastewater line relocation. As they begin the expansion of the next segment of, say, Highway 183, we will most likely have wastewater lines that we will be required to relocate at our expense. Really, they relocate them and then bill us for our portion of that. We estimate the cost of that to be about $600,000. Our latest report from them is that they will do that as they did the first phase, and they will pay for it up front and work out a financing agreement with us where we will have to pay them back, but it will be over time.
Why do
And,
we have to pay?
Well, number one, it's only 50%. But the second, it's the exact same reason that that Encore or AT&T has to move when we build a road. If we have utilities that is within their right of way, then they have to move them. And they're agreeing to do it for 50%. If they get into our own easement, where we have an easement and we have utilities in that, they pay 100% of that. So it's the exact same concept as
Does the 50% apply when they acquire new right-of-way with our line?
We should already have those in
In that case, we would typically already have an easement, so it would be 100%.
Yeah.
An example, this is our existing sewer map. You see the red line just to the east of the Main Street sign that goes across the right of way. We don't have an easement under TxDOT's right of way, so to move that, that's going to be 50%.
Which is a pretty good deal, because we actually make Encore and AT&T move it 100%.
So can I ask a question? So how do things get adjusted? So this is for 2015, and then does some of these Bs turn into As or Cs turn into Bs for wastewater?
In a font that you can't read and no one else can either, out there under the Bs. There is a year by each one of those little Bs, and that may change. So, but like, just for multi-year purpose, multi-year planning purposes, we'll put 2016, 17, 18, 19,
Okay, that's what that
20.
number is.
And theoretically, your 16s will move up next year to priority A and so forth, but based on your input, based on conditions that change, that is not fixed in stone. This is simply a plan, and things, you may see something continue to slide down. If there's something on here that's very expensive and the need is just not there, we're not going to do it just because they've had that year assigned to it. It may slide one way or the other. But we do assign a year just so, for multi-year planning purposes, if we said we're going to need a debt sale for something in 2017 or 18, we'll crank that through. But then the next year, it may slide out a year, or it may slide forward a year, depending on the direction of the council and what the citizens need or want. So,
Jeremy's the youngest one, he could read the font.
I think it's, what is it, Ross? Is it that a 2 or what?
It's pretty small. Decimal.
Yeah, and on the water side, on page 211, we only have one priority A, and this is 3 24-inch valves that need to be replaced. These are between North Main and Fuller Riser. Basically, when these valves don't work and and the staff needs to isolate a line break, without these valves working properly, they're not able to do that, and you can disrupt a much greater service area when you have some sort of a problem.
Is this one of the ones they found when we had the water leak off?
Well, taking care of
And-
water.
So there are 3 of those, and the cost on that is staggering, $220,000 for these 3 24-inch valves. So
You just imagine, they're that big around,
Yeah.
and they're 15 feet underground, so it's no small task.
But this would also come out of our recommendation from the operating transfer, obviously on the water side.
Now, are most of those under street, or are they in people's front yards, or where on a main water valve, where would those be located?
It's gonna be a variety of places. They're not gonna have any of that size in people's yards.
Okay. So it's like intersections or streets specifically?
And above ground, what you see is a little flake.
Right.
It doesn't look like much, and there's a rod they stick down there.
Yeah, this big key.
And then they put a wheel on it this big, and 2 or 3 of them turn.
Okay.
But, it's very, it's very deceiving.
Looking out at our priority Bs in the 5 years, you'll see obviously there is a continuation of the line replacements that we believe are going to be necessary. Again, funded from annual operating transfer. And then just like we said on the wastewater side, we also have water lines that would need to be replaced as a part of the 183 expansion that would be upcoming. Again, the developer's indicating at this point that they will be working with us on a financing plan for that. So that one is estimated to cost $1.2 million. And the only other one that's on this list is the water system security cameras. That's $75,000. We left this on here. Scott Joyce is currently, you saw some of this in the capital supplemental discussion, but he is working on a plan to try to consolidate all of the city's monitoring systems into one. And if he's successful with that, either this project might be able to be reduced in scope or it might not even be necessary, but we've left it on here until he's able to properly evaluate what he could do about kind of consolidating all of our monitoring systems. So.
We've been real pleased with Scott Joyce, by the way. We were concerned, we were concerned we couldn't really replace Danny McLean, and you know, they're as different as night and day, but we have really been pleased with him. Austin City has some good folks.
I like how you said that some.
I think we've got
Not anymore, we took the good one.
Present company excluded.
well, we got you.
Okay, brother.
The other projects that are unfunded, page 281, there are two priority A's, which we would ask for funding in the upcoming year. The first is, would ask for $94,000 to do the design of the development and engineering building. That was a part of the 1999 city master plan for our facilities. We would recommend paying for that from our car rental funds. This would not commit you to construction in the following year, but we talked about all the courtyard work that needs to be done from an ADA perspective, and we really would like to understand how all that is going to fit together with the redesign of the planning and development building. So there may be some interaction of those two designs that need to go together. And then if you're not prepared to fund the construction the following year, we could set those plans aside and do that when you're ready. But for the $94,000, we could get the design work done.
Mr. Tompkins, your question on the projects and how they're, I mean, this one was probably scheduled to have been done like in 2008 or something, and it's just been kicked down the road until the funds are back. Did you have,
The trail connection is the second one. We talked about that already. We've applied for the grant. This is a request for $357,000. This will, if we do not get the grant, this would pay to extend the trail from Creekwood over to the Lake Park development. If we are able to get the grant, then this would cover all the match that we would be required for the trail to go through the entirety of the project. So, and we would also recommend this come from our car rental funds. Looking out into the 5-year, let's see, I'm sorry, there was the slide for trail connection. I didn't click there, but I've seen that before. Blessing Branch is included in our 5-year plan, and this would be a continuation of our trail system, and it's identified in the Parks Master Plan. It's for 7.3 acre linear park, and it would go from the east side of North Main, or Main Street across from Midway Park. The estimated cost on that is $267,000, and that would qualify as an EDC project.
What about east of what was?
oh, stuff up there, Chris?
East of Wiser, I think the obvious kind of plan has always been that you would just continue across here in this area. If you actually drove up Wiser and looked there, you'll see a nice kind of open mode area with the sand volleyball court. That is actually property owned by the apartment complex to the north. So we would probably approach them and see about, number one, maybe they would dedicate that, if not some sort of pedestrian easement, because the Riverwalk piece, the entire Riverwalk master plan brings you up through that corridor with the intention of going into this linear park, getting those folks all the way to Midway Park.
Who owns the property just south of the volleyball courts, where the tree line starts?
Right here on this tree line, I believe it is, it's got that's out there,
I don't know.
that we've known for many years, Van Reed.
Van Reed.
I believe that's Van Reed there on that north corner. Now, if it's Van Reed or not, that property is owned to the creek line, and of course, the creek line north is the apartment complex. Then that goes over, and actually on the north side of the creek in this area, so adjacent to the Lennar future phase, Verizon, even though their building is way up there at Harwood, owns all the way down to the creek.
Oh, really?
And during the planning phase of that park, we visited with them, and they dedicated a pedestrian easement all down through that area. So really, we have just a little piece here to bridge.
It's floodplain anyway.
It's all.
You know, if just a little bit of work, we'll have one more connection all the way to 360 on that. So, go up to Civic Park.
Is this adding acreage to the Blessing Branch Park? Because I just thought it was that little picnic table area.
Adding a bridge?
No, acreage.
Oh, acreage.
Is this increasing the footprint of Blessing Branch Park compared to what I've just kind of
Yeah,
visualized?
there's a lot of unimproved,
Okay.
and so it's just improving a portion of it, try to leave it natural again. But there's some bank stabilization that needs to be done, and, trail. And there's a playground, not huge, but
Right.
there's a playground, and there's some exercise.
With a parking lot of probably 8 or 10 cars right there.
But it, I mean, it's not, I don't think they're envisioning it as a, you know, where you need a lot of parking to come. It's a neighborhood park, and then to accommodate the trail users. It's really to pick up all of that development out there.
And bring it over.
Yeah.
And I'm always putting a plug in for reclaimed water, but this has been designed that the reclaimed water line can be extended through this linear park and brought over to Midway Park.
Now, I'll pull this in there, like we did last year too, we gotta keep working on our park, our Sims Park, that area down there, so we have any plans to throw some money in the park, we need to address that down there too.
Well, I mean, y'all heard us talk, I guess, at the midwinter work session, I think, about the parks of the economic development, and that as we pay off some of our park system projects, there is a real opportunity to not tweak some of those parks, but to reinvent them to.
I
Put
like
it in
that.
my markers.
Sir?
Put it in my markers.
Yeah, I mean, that's not,
But I like that word reinvent, because that's what that part down there.
well, that has been the challenge to Ray, is
Yeah.
to,
Because that concept that you show us,
it's,
that right there is a
it
good place
is
to
a
try.
reinvention, and I, George, we gotta be plenty of parking too.
Yeah.
With good parking.
Just a parking grass.
This municipal plaza improvements would be landscaping, irrigation, that would come after the improvements that we talked about earlier that were part of the 8840 or CDG. And that would be estimated about $250,000 would be used, funded from the car rental funds. I think the thought on that, you would explain.
Yeah, I mean, let's let Chris talk to us about this. I think this is something that you're gonna be kind of excited about.
Y'all have talked a lot lately about us relooking at our landscaping standards with water conservation and what we need to do, and making sure that we're not, on one hand, requiring something that we can't sustain. The idea here, the first project is the yellow, that's the 88 piece. The purple is that greater landscaping piece. And the idea here is a little bit modeled after Acton Creek over here across the street, where they have a product garden, a product showroom right out in front of their building. Everybody that develops property in Euless comes into the planning and development engineering building and goes through plan review and a series of meetings, and they're in and out before that ever gets to P&Z, and then obviously to you guys. The idea here is to, both from an irrigation technology standpoint, ET controllers, drip irrigation, all those kind of things, potentially reclaim water, but also then from actual plants, to be able to practice what we preach, show that, and actually Mike and his staff could take a developer by the hand to walk out the front door and say, this is what I'm talking about. So often when we pitch these kind of things to people, the middle image that comes to mind is lava rock and a cactus. But there's a lot of ways to do drought tolerant plantings that is not lava rock and a cactus, and so to us, this would be a showplace.
What a great
I love this
concept.
idea, because
I do too.
You know, we got a beautiful campus, but the fact of the matter is, we're one of the worst examples of what we ought to be doing. It's all irrigated, it's all green, it's all lush.
Yep.
And going back to your hypocrite, shame on us when we're making a developer do something that is different than what we're doing. So that, if you've been to Acme Brick, I mean, that is a beautiful place down there, but that garden, brick garden, you can go see a wall of actual brick you're gonna buy for your home laid out. So that's what we're envisioning here, and I think that's a great, great idea. That I applaud you guys for coming up with that. I never would have thought of that.
So what does it take to move it to an A?
Well, you gotta remember that we gotta get the hardscape done.
Yeah, gotta get that done.
And then the other thing is, there's a lot of it that you don't wanna do if you got heavy construction going on in that building.
Yeah.
And so it's,
If you talk to Gary about that building would have not commit them to building that next year, there'd be a decision. All these decisions are always tied together, because if you thought you were gonna do that, even within the next couple of years, you wouldn't wanna come in and do all this.
but,
They'd have to tear it down.
let me back up and say this. This is where, remember, y'all are in charge. If you say, we like that idea and we wanna do a portion of it, or you look on the west side of the Harold Samuels building, we're not gonna touch that, other than that road, the sidewalk. So there is some that we could do. We could go out there and.
Which item is that? Lou?
Sir?
Which item is that? On here.
Which,
It's an unfunded project.
I know that.
Municipal plaza improvements.
That's the
31
municipal
down.
plaza improvement?
Yeah.
so that's, y'all just give us some input, because that is something that, I mean, we could break it up and do a small, I'm not saying am I stepping out too far? I mean,
No, I mean,
we can break it up if you want to.
Yes.
And start something.
The south side, south of the purple yellow, where did it also be included so that that's in Arbor Days feature as well? I mean, that
No,
could be done on Arbor Days.
that's the whole point of this thing, is because that's where, Chris was talking about developers, but it's also, you know, part of Arbor Days, we've had that building with the rain catching it. Y'all.
I'd love to piecemeal it, if we can, and do as much as we can when we can.
But also we have citizens who walk into that building to pay water bills, and for them to be able to say, what is this? And it's great education for them to do.
This is shown as two colors, because, I mean, candidly, it's sometimes hard to get much more detail where you can understand it. But in the plaza improvements, in the yellow, we have that large grass area out there that's been there forever. The real plan on that is that remains, but it becomes a little smaller. And you've got those tree beds as well. Well, those are, I guess I would offer up, you talk about small A. Obviously, we need to make the improvements, which is the 40th year CDBG project, but concurrent with that, those things will have to be redone. That's your very first opportunity to introduce this. I know it's not shown in purple because you can't really overlay the colors, but there's an opportunity for what you're talking about right there in the plaza. You know, that could be grown to expand here. What this really is, from a conceptual standpoint, is you'll notice this arc, it mirrors the arc of the plaza. The parks folks have been very instrumental in this, and pick up on what Mr. Thompson said there. You see how this is kind of generally left open? I mean, they're trying to plan that for Arbor Days. So that's your big stage area as people come through there. You can kind of see ghosted under this yellow, these kind of triangle looking. That's an enhanced or a different pavement that is taking you from the center point, obviously, to the water office, or to the library, or to the Arbor Days site. So there are some interim steps in there, absolutely. There is a place, if you were to look in the plaza today, that we've got some pretty bad movement right about here in the pavement that is a struggle from an ADA standpoint. And so you got into the details of this concept, that actually pavement gets replaced by some grass. It'll still be pavement around, it's just not the whole thing paved. But that grass area becomes an example of buffalo grass or other water tolerant species. I mean, all those things, even in that plaza, can be that same scope.
Great. You know, I was over here trying to remember, and we're not remembering right now. It got late, but when will the concrete part of that be done?
Well, the plan would be to be able to do the design concurrent with the design of this building, and the actual physical construction for the ADA improvements would be towards the spring of 15.
Spring of 15, or
Yes, sir.
not designed next spring or something? Because it may be that some of it can be done before concrete's done. For example, the west side of Harris Samuels building, the south side of Harris Samuels.
If you want to see some examples of the shops at Willow Bend, the mall there in Plano, their whole entrances are done with that. I don't know what kind of grass that is, but it stands about this tall, and it stays that way year round, and it's attractive. It's a native type grass. And my Watauga Pavilion over there in Watauga, we've got some of that in a smaller scale. And it can be really, really attractive, and it's very low maintenance, very low irrigation.
I was just gonna lift City of Arlington, one of their buildings over there, they're part of that Techscape, where you go take tours of. So City of Arlington, I know that our staff, Ray McDonald introduced our staff who does that. And I was very impressed with his capabilities, and he brought that up, and I went over there and looked at that. So we could probably possibly be part of their.
Okay, well, that's a very good project, so Ross, let's try to put something together where there's an A component of that, the bulk of it remains a B for, as it's and then and that's a good example, why this is kind of a draft form, and we want to get some pretty decent direction from you, but this is a good example where we can break that up, so let's do that. What are you waiting for, Ms. Goody?
Stop just 1 second. Linda got me over here, she's right. Go ahead, lift it up. So we haven't heard anybody say about our
Well,
parks.
when he puts, when he puts the bus together to go look at the park, we have to go to the Levitt Pavilion too and look and check out that.
So
They asked him if he had been to Levitt.
hopefully we're gonna have a project
That's right,
about
we'll have a road trip.
helping improve our, so I don't want Arlington to have something better than what we have.
You're hanging around in Arlington too much.
That's
No,
right.
I went over and looked at dry skid, but I'm gonna go look at this pavilion thing.
Okay.
It was brought up at our town hall meeting. I'm sorry, go ahead, Laura.
Our next one is this is still on our multi-year plan, but is the Texas Star Sports Complex Phase 5 design. That would be the addition of multi-use fields that Gary talked about earlier, could accommodate both softball and baseball. The design cost is estimated at about $688,000. Texas Star Sports Complex does have in their fund balance reserves that would be sufficient to cover that portion of the cost. That would simply be the design portion.
What year is that?
Is that right? 16 wrong?
Yeah, that's a kick down the road. And this is something that we need to have more discussion on, and I think it's something that y'all will need to have some discussion on down the road. There is some discussion amongst us at this point. Our original thought was we would close one day at the softball work and reopen the next one, the next day at this new facility. And we're thinking now there may need to be a break, and may need to be some rethinking of that whole concept. And so that's one reason we're recommending we push that off a year. And is that a business we even want to be in? Or do we build a very nice facility for youth sports and let adult softball fill some of the voids? So,
I think the challenge I think we're running into, I mean, you and I both know the softball world, the softball players who go to our softball field up there, you know, we have alcohol being served up there. I think you'll have a struggle commingling youth sports.
that is one of the major considerations is there's been enough of these other facilities built around the Metroplex that we're questioning, is it something that the city of Euless even needs to provide? And it is a much larger conversation than what we have time to get into tonight. But it is, just to throw that out, and it's nothing, it's not trying to denigrate softball world, because it's, I mean, facility and we need to operate it and do the best we can. But long-term, is the thought of just replicating it within a youth sports complex a good idea? Or should we do what the park was intended for and provide youth sports, and where there is time to put in a church softball league or whatever, put it in there, but not necessarily draw people from Carrollton and Frisco and everywhere else to play big time in softball.
Because if you're not gonna have where they can have their coolers of beer out there, they're not coming.
Yeah, and that model was there before we ever bought it. We have no choice but to continue it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, adult softball leagues are beer leagues. And if you don't have beer and let them have beer, they're not coming. We can move, they have a beautiful thing over there, but if we're not gonna let them have beer there, they're not coming.
We build the right fields and we can attract very competitive girls softball.
Yeah.
We can offer girls softball to our girls that we don't currently do a real good job of. We can appeal to a different league of boys baseball, kickball, every kind of ball imaginable.
Great.
But have a pretty clean break from that adult softball, other than church leagues or recreation. And I'm not even recommending that. I'm just like to see it.
I think we need to have more discussion now.
Yeah.
That sound like,
There's an openness amongst the staff to have that discussion.
what is Ray's thoughts?
Pending discussion.
Well, that's a tough facility to operate. It always has been. It's probably getting more tough. And it attracts a certain kind of people.
Hearst has a big complex. Is that for softball? What is that?
Softball.
Yeah, it's softball, but it's a little different than the softball world. It is, I think it's,
Same concept. It just attracts a different crowd.
Chisholm Park, is that what you want to talk about?
No, we're talking about, first softball there, precinct 9 and, Highway 26.
Isn't it all youth sports?
It's softball and there's soccer there and,
But it's all youth, isn't it?
no,
I have adults, but they serve alcohol.
no.
Yeah.
So it's more church leagues
But
and
it's
things
really
like
not a
that.
church league, it's just
It's
recreational.
recreational, but
Yeah.
it's,
Was it USSA or I forgot the.
we're USSSA is, I'm not sure what they are.
That's baseball, isn't it? I can't-
No, actually,
Both
USSA
ways?
sanctions both our baseball and
Okay.
softball.
See, I think it's a different affiliation. The arc is different, I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just planting a seed for
Yeah.
that.
Beyond that,
I
further
gotta get out of
years,
that parking situation.
Well, yeah, I hear you.
beyond that, you'll see trail enhancements. You see the construction there of Texas Star Sports Complex Phase 5, if we decide where we'd like to go there. Trail connection south, Euless, Trailwood, park improvements, library remodel design and construction, and basically the trail enhancements is water fountains, benches, shaded seating areas, picnic areas, pedestrian bridges. The trail connection to South Euless Park would provide some access from the adjacent neighborhoods over to the park in South Euless Elementary. Trailwood park improvements would be the installation of a new pavilion, parking lot, nature trail, youth playground equipment, parking lot lighting, benches and trail lighting. And all of these could be paid from a combination of sources, car rental, fund balances, grant funds, EDC funds. The only project within any of this that would be considered for any debt would be the Parks at Texas Star expansion, and that would qualify. We've always contemplated that that would be something that the EDC would issue revenue bonds for, but not until they paid off their existing debt and it got that big drop that's scheduled. So
What year is that?
that's that's coming up right here. I think 2015 is the last, before the drop off. 2016 is the drop-off. And, so yes, that is correct. 2015 is our last big payment. We get a $700,000 reduction at that point. So we had always contemplated that those improvements at the Parks of Texas Star would coincide with that, so that there would be no impact to the operating fund or the tax rate or anything. So whatever you were to decide to do on that, but that's not a situation where if you went to wait a year or two, whatever, you could certainly do that as well. Then that was just point for questions. We do have a few slides here to show you the debt. We just mentioned the debt. I'll do that real quickly. Our GO and CO debt is level there till 2017. We get a little drop there, it's about 400,000. EDC debt, you see that big drop there, about $700,000 that we get in 2016. Water wastewater debt is level to 2020, but even then, that doesn't help us on our rates because that debt's being paid by impact fees. That's the water tank we talked about earlier. Golf course debt is leveled out to 2027, and that's about $600,000 per year. Softball world debt, there's 2 years left, 2015, 2016, and then that will be completely paid off. And then our Star Center debt, which is paid from a rental fee, is about $700,000. It is paid off in 2025. And that is all of my slides, and I know that Gary's got another topic or two he wants to discuss, so more questions?
Sure. Softball world, paid off in 2 years. You sell that off. Would we expect quality from a commercial investor? What's our thought?
Potential user of that property?
Yeah, what would be the thought on that? Are we gonna?
The most recent discussions with developers, and there's a lot of them, is residential.
Okay, so go ahead and demolish the infrastructure of the softball world and restart.
And part of the, I guess we're driving some of that because of we're trying to leverage softball world, potential softball world with the redevelopment of Crest Lake. Is, and I don't mean, there's that golf driving range on the west side of 157. There's a lot of interest in residential that to make that even more cost effective, they would like to have softball work. And we're saying, yeah, we're maybe not so interested unless you'd like to do some redevelopment of Crest Lake. And that being said, though, we've also had, not recently, but discussions with industrial and commercial users taking the same approach. But the primary interest is a strip of commercial along 157.
Yeah.
And then
Just not vacating the softball world and expecting someone to come in and open up
no,
operations.
there's motivation behind all of that. That is, if there was no interest in softball world, we could keep operating actually at quite a profit once that debt.
Yeah, once we get rid of the debt.
Yeah, but it is,
You might even be able to pay it.
it's the potential for development.
What is Andy Chesney's schedule for that property west of
I don't know that he has just an immediate driving need. He's got the PD in place. But he does not have a plan to do that in the next few months. A year, I don't know what he's got.
Does that property connect with some of this property we're talking about?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought it did.
Yeah, there's a little strip even that he doesn't own. It goes right beside, on the east side of Freddy's, and of course, we've got the drive.
Okay.
Softball world. So that's the interesting part to developers of that is you got, 157, South Pipeline, and Highway 10 access. And we kind of hold key to that. Plus, in Crest Haven, you've got water and sewer infrastructure, we've all got benefits in large lots, 10,000-foot lots. So it's just a matter of finding the right person that's willing to take that on. I think we met last week with the developer that is extremely interested in that. We may see a plan come forward in the not too distant future that involves, but not our no discussion on price with him, just where he's going to be done, willing for that project. Okay, let me, just get, we were gonna wind up right now. I want to talk real quickly about South Euless Pool. I will tell you, to begin with, we don't have any answers tonight. It's primarily just give you some thoughts. This, we talked about water leaks and everything else. There's a couple of things that are fixed on South Euless Pool, and the same thing's gonna apply to Wilshire. That is, they're 1970s. They are not ADA compliant. Anything you do down there requires you to make them ADA compliant. This is a CMU block building, so there is nothing, you can't fix it. You tear it down and start over. You can't move walls like we can in this building. But this is the bathroom. You can see the conditions of it. It is, again, it's 40-something-year-old. We painted, but it's out, there's no, I mean, it's open air, so it doesn't last long. It's not a facility that you would be real proud of. Showers, toilets, but you can tell, you can't, there's not a measurement there, but you can see shower takes 5 foot turn radius, urinal up, you can't get it. So there's not much can be done there. That's the pool. It's just a typical 60, 70 era pool. It's got sand filters there. That's, you see that crack in the middle, that's an indication of some of the issues. Of course, that whole part of town is prone to that. If you can tell, those are not small cracks. They're pretty significant. There's your piping. It's, when we say this cast iron pipe, it is cast iron pipe. Part of the problem with the camera is even getting access to it, because we take one of those joints of pipe out, run the camera, you probably never get sealed up again. So it's just old. It's that's the little splash pad that we built beside it, and I can vouch for, I got 2 granddaughters, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, they love it, this splash pad. The other challenge that we have at this, and you really can't tell by this, and it's the same thing in Wilshire Pool, they sit on hills. So there's probably a 4 or 5 foot rise from this little parking lot to the pool, and what is that, 1 inch, you gotta have a foot per inch.
5%.
Right, so it's, so anything you do up there, you gotta make it accessible from the parking lot. There you can get a little greater sense of the rise in elevation. So we asked Ray, what can we do? And we got an estimate to tear it down, and absent any asbestos, and I really can't see that there could be any asbestos in that CMU block building, but any demolisher is going to take the approach. We have to exclude asbestos. $45,000 to tear it down, and that's if they kindly can float it, you know, they pile it up and fill it in. So that's the fixed cost is $45,000. We can build a splash pad that looks something like that. That is, you can tell by the wheelchair it's accessible. Minus any bath towels and minus any ramps, just the footprint of that deal is about $250,000. So that's it. I got pictures that I'm not, just didn't put in here of, you could do what we did at the pool at Midway, and, which is totally replumb it, shallow it up, but hang on your hat. The price to do that is $1.2 million. That does not include parking, ramps, bathhouse. That is just to do the pool. So, what Mr. Porterfield asked the other night, I thought was one of the more astute questions that has been asked in ages. Because it's not even something we had contemplated. We don't have enough buses to do what he was asking about. to truck little kiddos around. But, I mean, you can buy a bus for, I think, several years ago, we paid like $70,000 for that senior bus. Not that, and you could do it with vans, but I mean, it's kind of worst case scenario. And then you use the senior bus the other 9 months out of the year to all seniors. I don't have any details on that, and we just asked it, I think, Tuesday night, so it would take a long time to work that out. But as you talk about what to do, that's not an easy question of what to do, because it's, not many people use it. You can see the conditions of why not many people use it. It's used a great deal by daycares, many of which are not even Euless, but they're commercial. Even if they are in Euless, they're getting paid to take care of kids, and they bring them to our pools to swim, which is not a bad thing for pools for. But I guess maybe for 300,000, whatever, you might could put some kind of little bathhouse and a splash pad out there. But we got one. My granddaughters enjoy it. I don't know that they need a whole lot more, because it's little bitty kids that enjoy it. Then they go to the aquatic center. So something creative, like Glenn suggested the other night, that we hadn't even thought about, may be a way. We're gonna play the same thing in Wilshire. We don't have any pictures, but you could use the same pictures. It's the exact same thing. It sits on a hill, smaller piece of land, probably a little higher ramp. But do we need to spend that kind of thing? In Wilshire, I don't even know that you need to replace it with anything. At South Euless, Ray says we could build a little pavilion, just add to the park amenities, kind of going back to redesigning your park.
But once you do that, once you do any of that amenities, you're gonna have to get all your ramps and everything.
Oh, yeah,
right? And I'm going through that at two of my properties right now. You're gonna look at 100 grand. I mean, just
Yeah.
throw it out there before you touch anything.
So it's, all this to tell you, and this is just seed planting, that pool is beyond help. If they came back and told me it was gonna cost $50,000 to patch it up, I'm gonna tell them, next week's July, we got 6 more weeks of swim season, we're not fixing that pool. Now, y'all got voters that you're responsible to, so I'm always sensitive to that, but.
Do you have any numbers for the utilization of that pool before it?
It was an open so short a period of time. Ray would have it, but it's gonna be tiny. I mean, we showed you those last year.
We had the cost per hour open or something that Ray showed us, and it was unbelievable.
Well, even last year, there was only like 2,300 or 4,300 visits, and that's over whatever it is, 90 days, and it's the same 12 people, 90 times.
So, I mean, I hate to do this, but this is one of the things, we're not really bringing you a solution. What I am telling you is, there's probably no way on God's green earth we're reopening that pool this year.
Let me ask you a question.
Sir?
We have a splash pad today.
Yep.
What if we fill the pool in and just put in native grass?
That's right. We're fine with that.
I'm not sure that if our $250,000 or $350,000 at the end, that we need to enlarge the splash pad.
I would like the concept of turning it more into a park with a pavilion and having that little splash pad there anyway.
And quite honestly, and I can kind of speak from my daughter-in-law that takes my grandkids up there, and that's a short period of time in life. But you've already got an accessible route to the splash pad, and it's a little lower than the pool. To put a little shade structure that the moms can sit under while the kiddos play, that don't cost much. We put some amenities there. That, to the normal viewer, that is just part of the schoolyard. ago, you know, that just across the fence is the South Euless schoolyard. So,
That's kind of what I was gonna ask is, have we reached out to HEBISD to see if there was anything that they need or anything they would want to go in with for that piece of
no,
property?
no, we've not, because, I mean, again, we were gonna try to operate the pool, and it's just recently died, so, we've not done anything other than to explore, to give y'all a night, some general thoughts of what it would be. I don't know, Mr. Tompkins, that HEB is gonna be interested, I mean, because they gotta provide the accessible right now. Right now, their schoolyard is not accessible, but it's on a hill. And you get down to basketball courts, we got basketball courts, but anybody that could, you know, point out, anybody that tries to do anything with that is faced with the same thing, that accessible route is built.
And it's huge. The money that you're talking about, the engineering and all that is just freaking huge.
Well, I was thinking like tennis courts or something in that sense where something that would be useful to the community, but as
The
well.
ATV is not gonna want tennis courts, it's, they don't have any interest in, Trinity High School in Bell, but that's it. Drive over here to Euless Junior High and look at the school district's tennis courts, because they're not utilized. I'm not criticizing, it's just, it's not gonna be.
And but even that, if you were to put that in there, now you've got to get ADA, everything to get to the fence.
Now, all that to say, we will talk with them, absolutely, but I'm just, it's not much. I can't imagine, but we'll ask them questions. So,
Before you develop the plan for Wilshire too, we need to go down this path too.
Yeah, I think we should keep Wilshire as long as we can.
that could be,
Wilshire,
yeah, it's, this one, Euless, South Euless is water. Wilshire is structural. I mean, you saw cracks here, they pale in comparison to Wilshire. Remember that, we got gutters that crumbled, so
Yeah.
it is, I would be shocked if it would last any longer. And it's only a smaller piece of land
Right.
than South Euless. It's if you walk up the hill, and you got the pool sitting on top of the hill.
Yeah, it's a much smaller pool too, isn't it?
Similar in size.
Now, Dylan used to take swim lessons there, and it just seems like South Euless is a bigger pool. But
I think they're,
a long time.
Because they were built at the exact same time.
But I'm not, I couldn't swear.
I mean, the picture there looks so much bigger than that Wilshire. It could be
It
just
probably
a-
looks smaller,
So-
because it's a smaller piece of property.
So we will try to develop something, and, you know, we always thought we ought to bring a plan, but, and maybe a much more scaled down plan, and we may try to work something into, Mr. Porterfield's idea. What I like about that, I don't know if we may ride that bus, but the fact of the matter is, we need another senior bus anyway. So if you develop that idea and you offer it and nobody avails themselves of it, you've not wasted the money. But we need a senior bus and we gotta have a replacement for that senior bus. So this, you know, I think that's the original bus we bought. And that thing's probably 7 years old, so more I thought about that, I really like that idea because I like alternatives.
And you know, it's
Good
not
job.
unlikely that you wouldn't have some seniors riding that bus up to the center too.
Yeah, and well, that, you know, there's another
Yeah.
idea, is
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be just kids.
Yeah. You just have a regular route that goes at certain times.
Yeah. So we just found a nice grassy park for people to park on and we would.
That's right, exactly.
There's an app for that too.
Have an app for it, so,
Keep track of where the bus
Yeah, we
is.
can do parking
Buses
right on the
gonna get to
lawn.
you.
okay, so we're gonna come back to you with some of this. We're gonna.
Well, that might be an idea. How
Sure.
about making these pools, Wilshire and South Euless, parking lots for the pickup?
We have to have
Still
four-wheel
have
drive.
these-
Yeah,
You can't get to from the parking lot to where we're gonna pick it up.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna bring you something on that. We're gonna work on the transportation aspect, we're gonna work on maybe a little something to tear that pool down and maybe put shade structure, whatever we'll bring you a little plan. Ross is gonna work on